Welcome, guys, to the Trainwell podcast, inspiring you to move more, to get stronger, and to most importantly, have fun. Today's episode is all about motivation. We have two amazing of our own trainers, Trainer Andrew and Trainer Megan. And here's what we're going to talk about, okay? We're going to talk about the role of motivation in starting a new fitness routine. We're going to talk about motivation versus discipline. What's the difference? Is discipline a bad word? Maybe, maybe not. We'll talk about role of community. We'll talk about mental health. It's a very big, hot topic in today's industry. Let me tell you a little bit more about our guests. First of all, Trainer Andrew. He has spent a decade thus far as a trainer and a coach. He has a master's degree in human performance, where he specialized in sports psychology, doing his graduate thesis on teaching a mental skills training program to athletes. And he presented at an international applied sports psychology conference.
We also have Trainer Megan, of course. Megan studied psychology at NYU before pursuing her master's degree in sports psychology after her experience as a competitive swimmer. Since 2012, she has worked as a personal trainer and coach, as well as ran her own mental skills consulting practice, working with adolescent athletes all over the Southeast on mental performance to enhance their game. She has helped athletes overcome mental barriers and reach goals of Junior Ryder Cup, MLB, and D1 college sports. This episode is incredible.
Needless to say, guys, we got a great treat. So grab your notebook out and take some notes.
Andrew and Megan, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know you're both busy training clients, so it's really a pleasure to get to talk with you both. So, of course, we're talking about motivation today, and this is a hot topic, as you both know, as personal trainers, but of course, as sports psychology people in the world. Motivation's tricky because people tend to come into a training program highly motivated, and then slowly over time our clients tend to notice and tell us, I'm just not feeling as motivated anymore. So what is really the role of motivation in just starting the fitness routine? And then we'll kind of get into what is the role of motivation in continuing that routine. So Megan, do you want to jump us off with how does motivation play into starting a fitness routine?
So I feel like motivation can be a really, really great thing when it's starting a fitness routine, because when you're motivated, that's when you're going to search out what the right fitness routine might be for you. And you are more likely to get started and actually do the first couple of workouts, stick to it, because you're feeling this like burst of motivation that is almost kind of like a high for the first couple weeks.
Yeah, that really makes sense, because I do feel like I notice that, and you guys probably do too, when you meet with a new client, it's like their excitement level is top notch. But that also scares me a little when it's so high, because I'm predicting that there's going to be this swing in the opposite direction. Do you notice that that is what tends to happen?
I almost call it the motivation trap, because I think the mindset of a lot of people is you have to be motivated to be successful, especially in fitness. If you're not motivated to hit the gym and all of that, it's not going to work. But the reality is, we know, and as clients who have worked out for a long time know, motivation isn't what gets you in 6 months to a year to 10 years into a routine. It's that it's become part of your daily habit and routine, and you've created that consistency. And sometimes we have to be the motivation for our clients because their motivation has dried up for a little bit or something has happened. And so I try to talk to my clients about that, about recognizing that as great as motivation is, it can also be a trap that ultimately leads them to fall off. And a lot of them can recognize that of like, oh yeah, that's what always happens. I lose motivation and I stop working out.
Megan, would you say it's a game of habits as opposed to motivation?
Yes, it is most definitely a game of habits as opposed to motivation.
Andrew, what do you think? Is it because everyone starts motivated with something, right? Like I'm really bad with finances. So that's why my wife does everything. But when I start like finance, I read Dave Ramsey. I'm like, oh yeah, but it only lasts like maybe a week. So is it a game of habits, Andrew, would you say?
Yeah, habits is a huge part. I also think setting up your environment to make what you want to do very easy to do is a big part of it as well. And I think using that initial motivation to shape your path for a future you who is less motivated, I think that's a real game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, what are some of those environmental changes that someone starting out could decide to make?
Yeah, and there's different parts of the environment. There's like the literal physical environment, what's around you. And for some people, that might mean, hey, it's January 1st and I want to start exercising. So I'm going to actually roll out my yoga mat and put it in the middle of my living room. So every day I see it. And that just makes it a little bit easier. Or take your workout shoes and take them out of the closet and put them right next to the front door. So it's visual reminders and you're literally setting it up. But then you also have kind of like the social environment where I'm going to hire a trainer and now I have someone else to be accountable to. So I'm going to take that initial motivation that's having me way up high, feeling pumped for this. And now I'm going to be locked in for however long. When my motivation is down, I know I have a trainer that I'm kind of being held accountable to, which is a different form of motivation that is a little bit more long-term staying.
See, that's what Darren and I were talking about is like discipline. Like, I think it's also discipline. Like, motivation is not going to last. And so that's when you have to be like, boom.
Yeah. Joey, I just want to say quickly, because to me, discipline, the word discipline makes me feel like it's a naughty word. I'm a little shamed. You know, when I think about discipline, I get a little scared. I would love to break that down more, because it's like, it sounds like, Joey, what you're saying is like, okay, when the motivation wears off, you're taking what Andrew is saying about shaping your environment to mean like you're setting yourself up to be disciplined.
Totally. I would say in my world and how I try to coach clients, and dear listener, listen, is you get motivated. That's the first step. Motivation then has to become a discipline. Discipline then has to become a habit. Habit becomes your actual result. Like brushing your teeth. I don't necessarily get psyched about brushing my teeth. It's just this habit that's occurred over time, right? And I know in the beginning, if you were my mother, I didn't do anything you said, right? And so I didn't like it, but it became a discipline. Hey, I get, before bed, boom. In the morning, boom. And now I'm really glad that it's a habit, because now I don't have all these adverse consequences of not brushing my teeth. And I think we can apply the same thing to fitness. And there's a little pain along the way. There's two pains in life, regret or discipline. I choose discipline, right? But Megan, would you agree that discipline is a bad word or discipline is a good word?
You know what to say, Megan.
So I actually see both sides of this argument, because I think discipline is needed, but I also see, when we think of that really disciplined friend or person, it's typically someone who is very type A, who in our eyes doesn't make mistakes. And so when you are someone who maybe doesn't feel super disciplined all the time, it can feel like, oh, discipline is shameful. Like I have to be this. It's almost that idea of perfection, where, Joey, I also see you have to have discipline to create a habit. I like to think about it is there is flexibility in discipline, or else it can't be sustainable. And I like to think about it also as non-negotiables. So instead of I'm being disciplined, I am looking at the reality of my life, creating flexibility and things that are non-negotiable. Brushing your teeth. If you don't want to have gum disease, you have to brush your teeth, right? That is a non-negotiable if you're in your day. If you want to have energy and not feel terrible, you have to eat right. You have to drink water. Those are non-negotiables that you just do without thinking about every day. And I think that's the way we can coach people to see fitness. And I've had so many clients who, looking at how it fits into their daily life in a flexible, realistic manner, can make it a non-negotiable, which can look different every week or every day.
I like that so much, like that framing of it, to allow the flexibility. Like discipline isn't like drill sergeant, it's either this or it's that. There's room for a range of what fitness looks like in your life and building this habit, because I talked about in our intro episode. So if you haven't listened to the intro episode yet, go ahead back and listen to that, because I talked about my history with eating disorder and exercise obsession. And I think that's why, to me, discipline feels so scary, so rigid, and ultimately led me to like a really unhealthy place, where that's why I kind of back away from that word. Like, I don't want to be disciplined. I want to have the flexibility to still go with the flow, still live my life, still have spontaneity. And I do sometimes wonder if people hear the word discipline and think like they can't miss a session, they can't mess up on their, nutrition plan. And then that does lead to a really unsustainable, unmanageable place where now we're swinging the opposite direction of, that highly disciplined actions of never missing a session and perfectly following our nutrition plan to we're not going to the gym at all. And we're, eating everything we see because biologically now we've set ourselves up to have this preoccupation with food and like the opposite of what we were doing. And I think that's a good point to kind of highlight the role of having a more flexible and sustainable approach when it comes to starting a fitness routine. Andrew, can you talk a little bit more about the all or nothing mindsets that so many of our clients come in with and how they might benefit from having that more flexible, sustainable approach?
Yeah, I'm stealing this quote, but I love it. It's all or nothing usually gets you nothing. Always something is better. I say that to probably every client at one point or another, and I wholeheartedly believe that. Because to me, all these words, motivation, discipline, willpower, they all have a place and they're all similar in that sometimes they're really high. I have high amount of discipline and willpower and motivation right now, and sometimes I have almost none. And yet we still have some goal that we're chasing after. So there's still some action we need to take regardless of those things. So to me, it's okay, I have high discipline, high willpower, high motivation, whatever it is right now. What does that look like? Okay, now I have low amounts of that. What does that look like? So it's yes or no. It's how does that change with how I'm feeling day to day, week to week, so that I'm always showing up to some degree, but it looks different depending on how I'm feeling.
I think this is a great segue into community too, because if you run out of your motivation or you run out of this, this all or nothing approach, you have to lean on your resources. And I feel as though that community is a huge part of that. Your environment, who you surround yourself with. I mean, that's why CrossFit was so successful and is still extremely successful. So Megan, would you agree that community is a big part in making our clients successful?
Yes, we are social creatures. And so we need to have some sort of community or human engagement in what we are doing to be sustainable. That just looks different for everyone. So you have people who love that CrossFit, that group fitness. You'll have a client that's like, oh, I love taking group classes because they get that community feel. Or you have people who go to the gym with their partners or their best friend, or they have a gym buddy. And I think that adds a layer of accountability, which is why community is so key. Because if you're sharing something, if you're sharing that I'm on a weight loss journey, I'm eating healthier, I want to go to the gym, you're putting it out in the world for other people to hold you accountable. And then you're almost setting that expectation that now other people have of you, because they're going to ask. You tell your mom, oh, I'm going to the gym, I'm eating healthy. She's going to check in and say, oh, how's your work? How are your workouts going? How are this? So it creates that layer of accountability where you're now held accountable to your community for this habit that you're trying to create. And I think that can be really successful. If you don't want to go wake up at 5 and go to the gym, but your best friend is waiting on you, or your personal trainer has written a workout and is going to message you, or you've signed up for a class, there's the motivation when you don't have any.
I want to really quick, if we can, circle back to something Andrew said about, what does the high motivation day look like versus the low motivation day? Can you actually lay that out? Like, what would that look like in practicality? What does that mean?
Yeah, this is actually an exercise I go through with clients sometimes when they're struggling with these topics. Is like sit down, like go home, journal it out, talk it through with me on a call, whatever you need to do. But like, what is a 10 out of 10 motivation day in terms of fitness? Like, is that we're doing a 2-hour workout nonstop and you're breathing hard by the end of it? Okay, what's a 5 out of 10 workout look like? Is that all I'm going to do is go on a walk outside and do a 20-minute home workout? Okay, what's a 1 out of 10 workout? That's all I'm going to do is stretch my calves for 30 seconds and call it a day. It's different for everybody, but it's something that is worth taking 5 minutes to kind of sit down and talk through for yourself. And now, like, I'm at a 7 out of 10. What does that mean for me? I'm at a 3 out of 10 today. What does that mean? I've always found it's very tough when you're in those moments of low motivation, low discipline. Usually a lot of things going on in life. You're stressed at work, family life, social life, whatnot. It's hard to think clearly. So if you've already done the work of having very conscious written out, maybe you tape it up on the fridge, you write in your phone notes. If you have those kind of dial markers already pre-made, it's so much easier just to execute versus trying to think through this when you're in those down moments.
Yeah, I actually have a perfect example of that because this week it was cloudy and rainy pretty much every day, and I was so bummed. And I had a day, and this is rare because I've been working out for coming up on 20 years, like being dedicated to fitness. And it's rare that I feel this way, but I literally was like, working out's stupid. I don't want to do it. And I didn't. I skipped a day because I was like, I'll just come back to it tomorrow and see how I feel. And then there are days when I'm like, working out's not stupid, but I'm still not feeling it. Like I'm not my highest energy self. So I'm just going to do my main lift. And then I'll see how I feel. Maybe I'll do one accessory movement. Is that kind of what you mean? Like kind of figuring out, and then how do you tell, like, how can a client tell, am I just not wanting this to do this because working out is an effort? Or do I actually need a rest day? Or do I actually need to go lighter today? How do you distinguish between what these things feel like? And is that kind of how you would do it? Like something like what I did?
Yeah, what you did is awesome. That's a huge level of self-awareness built over, like you said, 20 years of doing this. So not everybody, honestly, will have that level of self-awareness. Self-awareness is the thing before the thing. Before you can realize this, you have to be aware of how you're feeling in the moment. I usually tell clients, like, if I made like a title of this, it's just do the warm-up. It's the same thing as you. I'm just going to do my main lift. If you're feeling down, just commit to putting on your shoes. If you're going to the gym, just drive to the parking lot. If you get there, you're still not feeling like doing it, then don't do it. That's probably a good sign. Or if you're at home, just do the 3-4 minute warm up. If that's it for today, that's it. You tried it. That's what you got done. You showed up still. You checked the box. So for most clients, I think just committing to some small part, I call it like shrinking the habit, shrink the action down to whatever is easy enough to commit to. And that's like kind of testing out the waters of, is this just I'm kind of being lazy today, or I'm just not feeling like it, but I could do it? Or is this my body actually telling me I need to stop? Usually, in the first few minutes.
Yeah, I think like that can be hard to tell in the beginning, but just trying something, and it comes down to like, am I moving the needle forward? Am I just moving the needle a little bit? And we can call that a win. I think everybody tends to get down on themselves when they're not doing the thing they said they're going to do, but really doing something. I do think it's better than doing nothing. And I even think doing something is simply making an informed and intentional decision. So when I was feeling like, oh, this is stupid, I am not feeling it today, I intentionally thought, yeah, I could do my workout today. It's probably not going to be the best workout because I'm not feeling it. I feel like I need more just rest. And I made an intentional decision. I'm not going to do it today, but I am going to do it tomorrow. And I do still feel like that is doing something. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's huge. You're being very intentional about what you're doing. I think that's the key aspect of this. You are thinking it through. You're asking yourself questions and you're making a decision versus letting life kind of force you not to do a workout today, even though, because work went late, meeting ran late. It's late. I don't want to do my workout. That was kind of an unintentional decision. Another way, or like a kind of thought question I have clients work through those moments is, would doing the workout today make tomorrow worse for me or make tomorrow better? And that's kind of another way of getting at this. If dear listener just needs another way of asking yourself that is this today hurting tomorrow or making tomorrow better for me?
What I tell clients too, Andrew, is that, and Megan, you can weigh in on this, is like, if you have a bad motivation day on working out, there's other things you can do. Like, you can sleep better that night. You can say, okay, well, I want to aim for a better sleep this night. Or I can be like, hey, I'm going to go shopping to budget some more time for cooking. But just like Darian said, always moving the needle forward, I think that's a big key aspect. Megan, would you agree that there are other buckets that you can that our clients can do if they're not feeling necessarily the energy to specifically physically work out?
Yes. And I think what you spoke on, getting more sleep, going shopping, getting something to eat. Maybe they didn't eat a lot yesterday and maybe they're hungry. I always ask, like, hey, what's going on today? How is today different for you? And I think too, moving the needle, doing something different. Maybe you've had a crazy week and you're a parent and you just feel like you haven't spent any time with your kids. Well, maybe skip that workout and spend time with them. Maybe call a friend and go for a walk. It's not your workout, it's not what's scheduled, but you're getting that socialization in. You're getting, the mental health benefits of walking and talking with someone. And maybe that's what you're craving in that moment. And I think helping our clients, because they're not always as self-aware, Andrew and Darian, you touched on this. We're so super self-aware. We've been doing this forever. We are conditioned and trained to understand our bodies in a way that most of our clients don't. And I think that's where we can come in and ask those questions. But what do you really need today? Maybe it's not a workout. Last week, I had a bunch of clients who I just gave a 10-minute stretch to because they were having really bad weeks, be it the weather, be it just crazy work weeks. A workout wasn't happening. And so we switched their perspective. Your body is tired. You are tired. Why don't you just stretch for 5-10 minutes? All of them felt so much better, but still felt in control of that habit and that discipline of like, I still did something. I still moved the needle a little bit.
Yeah, and rest assured, if you do decide to spend time with your kids instead of working out, you will definitely be run into the ground and have a physical challenge. There's no doubt if you have young kids. So, I even think just getting my kids in and out of the car is a workout in itself. It's huffing and puffing. Oh, dang, that's my cardio for the week right there.
She's got mom arms right there.
Yeah, I do. I always tell new parents, it's okay if you're not working out because you're carrying around a weight everywhere you go. And, essentially, fighting them into the car seat, fighting them into the bed, it really is. Oh, man, my heart's racing just thinking about it. What a rough time. And fun. Don't forget fun. Okay, so let's talk about trauma. Good segue there. A lot of times clients will have an injury, a traumatic event, something happening in their life, a health scare. And we could even take this, into, less scary things, but just any kind of big change in life. Seasons are always changing. Life is always changing. But as trainers, we notice that this is one of the biggest reasons our clients fall off their routines and then struggle to get, quote unquote, remotivated. Is motivation what they should even be looking for in these cases? Like, what's happening here with this change in like life circumstance and then falling out of their routine?
I always think of this more as managing expectations more than managing motivation, because motivation should go up and down. I would say, like, if I have a sick family member, like, working out probably should not be my number one priority in life. So I need to manage my expectations. I have something big come up. I got injured. There's something going on in the world. Like, I probably shouldn't work out like I did when there were 0 things going on in my life. Maybe when nothing's going on, I can do 5 1-hour workouts a week. But when I have a newborn and a sick family member, maybe I need to manage my expectations and understand right now 100% looks like 3 30-minute workouts a week. And that's still okay, because again, we're going back to being intentional. We're communicating, we're setting up new schedules that adapt to how our life is changing, and it's always changing. So I always tell clients, if you started out with 3 1-hour workouts a week, I highly doubt over the next 12 months, you're going to do 3 1-hour workouts every week. At some point, it's going to be 5 10-minute workouts in the week, and then 2 1 hours, and then 1 hour 1:30. Like, it should always be changing because life is always fluctuating.
I agree with this. And I think I've done a lot of work, especially when it comes to kind of merging the sports psych and personal training into stages of behavior change. And I think when big events happen, we could be crushing it with workouts, doing such a good job, but something happens that is then a catalyst for change in our life. And it almost catapults you back into that pre-contemplation contemplation stage where you are no longer ready to do what you were doing before. Something has changed, your mindset has shifted, the way you're thinking about things, because you are preoccupied. You have a new baby, you go through a breakup, you have an injury. And so, like Andrew said, those expectations need to be looked at and then changed by what your needs are in that moment. And so catering your workouts to what you're going through then. And like Andrew said, maybe that means short bursts of movement. Short bursts of movement add up to be long-term, bigger workouts, longer workouts when you're there. But doing a 5-minute piece of movement is going to be better for you than dropping off completely. And I think that's where we can come in to really steer our clients to have that conversation and say, it's okay. It's okay to not look like this. But if you're moving at all, you are going to be seeing a change. It might not be what we were on the trajectory for, but it's going to be something that will make a difference. And when you're back and ready and your life meets or matches where you can do those long workouts again, then we can go back to where we were, and get those long workouts, set a different goal. But for right now, our goal should be to meet you, your body and your mind where they're at.
Megan, this is a great segue to mental health, because you brought up flexibility early on, right? Having the capacity to buffer, hey, I have a sick kid, I have other responsibilities. Like, I'm going to take an extreme example here, but that's why you look at the Olympics, right? Where their sport is their strict identity. Like, if they get sick, they still have to compete. If they have kids, if they have a death in the family, they still have to compete. There is no days off for them. Like, they have to commit all the time. Would you say that for the general person, the general population, that mental health is a big concern today? And if it is, what are some mental strategies we can do to cope with that?
1000%. I feel like we are definitely in a mental health crisis. And I think there's a lot of mitigating factors to that, or things that are going in to cause it. And I think exercise is probably the number one most accessible way for most clients to actually help their mental health. How many times are you having a terrible day? You're so anxious, you're so stressed, and you do something as simple as going for a walk, and your body can get itself into a flow state when you're walking or when you're doing really any kind of working out that allows you to problem solve differently. There are studies that have shown that walking with your therapist actually help. There are outdoor therapists who do hiking and all of these things because your brain gets into a different state of mind when you're exercising. And so I think that is a conversation I talk about this to my clients all of the time, and that exercise is actually a great way to manage stress and anxiety, because one, it's something you can control. And a lot of times when you're stressed out, when you're anxious about something, it's because there's something that's out of your control that's happening. And so you can control your habits. You can control what you're eating. You can control that you're exercising. And so I like to give that to my clients. And when my clients talk about that they are stressed or anxiety, they have anxiety, I tend to give them more control over that. I tend to say, okay, what do you want? What do you want to do? How did this feel for you? And ask them about any changes or anything they want, so they feel like they're really driving that ship. And typically, after a workout, I feel so much less stressed. My anxiety today has been down because I'm working out, because I'm getting that movement. And a lot of times, I feel like if you're my client, I'm like a broken record on this. Just walk. Like, get outside and go for a walk, because other things might not feel, you just might not be able to do them in the day. You might not want to go to the gym. It might feel too much of a barrier. But I think if you can walk and get outside, you are going to get the mental health benefits of exercise.
Is it true that like repeated movements, like walking, is that why it's so therapeutic, and the outside? But I heard that like multiple steps, like such as running, cycling, repetitive movements, even shadow boxing helps with reducing anxiety. Is that true?
It is. And a lot of that is because you get into that flow state. So have you guys ever read Flow by Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, which Andrew, you probably definitely have read it. But that book is all about getting into a mental state called flow. And when you're in that state, you're not thinking about everything else that is going on in your life. You're able to truly focus. And I used to joke when I was a competitive swimmer, would, because I was young. And so I would be dealing with, like the petty dramas of like an 18-year-old, but I would get in the water and I'd like think through what was going on. Now, when I'm going through crazy things or stressful things, I go for a walk and I think about like, okay, what am I going through? Why am I stressed out about this? And typically when I'm going for a walk, I don't really run anymore, but when I was running, or if I go for a swim, like problems just get solved. Like I just start thinking about, and it's because of the way your brain is reacting to the exercise that you're just able to think about things a little differently.
Yeah, I know that we're kind of talking about stress, anxiety, but I do see a lot of clients will get depressed to a point where they feel like it's a struggle to get out of bed in the morning. And, none of us here are therapists, but I am curious about how you guys think about depression and exercise, because I luckily don't struggle with like debilitating depression. I never have. And I think for people who don't, it can be really hard to understand that state of mind and being. But I've heard from therapists that depression is the state of inactivity. When activity feels so hard, and I do see so many clients cancel and they say, I'm just having really bad mental health. I can't do this. And that part of me who doesn't fully understand that wants to go, but this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to help fix that. So what is like the disconnect there? And anyone can share their thoughts here, but what's the disconnect that's happening there from like feeling like, oh, I'm too depressed to exercise, to feeling like exercise is the thing that can help me out of this?
I struggled with this too, Darian, and I have worked on the mental health side with athletes who have been going through depression and all of that for years. But I actually had postpartum depression with my second. And it's something I've been battling this whole year of that, it's crushing. And I never truly understood that until now. And so I feel like I have a different frame of reference for how to kind of get out of it with exercise, because again, that broken record, like I would go for walks and it would feel like, okay, like I can't do anything else today, but I can go for a walk. And I do feel a little bit better. But I think the way I have looked at it is a lot of times when I was in my most depressed, when I was feeling like I had no control over anything, the one thing I could control was movement. And that was that thing that would get me out. I mean, I have 2 kids, so I couldn't just lay on my couch or in my bed the way I wanted to. I had to like push myself to do something, but I started each day with what can I control today? And one of those things that I made myself think about was I can control that I do a workout, and I'm not going to be able to work out for long. Like I don't work out for more than 30 minutes anymore, because the idea of working out for longer felt crushing. Like it felt like another thing I was going to fail at. And when you have depression, that is, you just can't have anything else that's going to make you feel worse than you already feel. And so I think digging into that, giving a client with depression something to control, but also making it small. It has to be digestible for them. And I think that comes back to those small bursts of movement. Walk to your driveway and back. Do 5 minutes of gentle stretches. Do something that is getting your body moving. It feels within your control, but it also feels like you're going to be able to achieve it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that experience. I think sometimes our clients feel like we're trainers, we're fitness people. Oh, we can't understand how they're feeling. And I think that's one of the coolest things about Trainwell in general is like, we're just people. We're down to earth trainers. We have the same struggles still as everyone else. I think what sometimes can make it easier for a trainer is that we have found a love of movement, and that kind of always brings us back to it as the answer. But I think as a trainer, I'm always trying to help my clients find a love for movement as well, and hoping that they can find that. Oh, Joey just brought his little buddy on. He's a cutie. That they can find that as an answer as well. I'm curious, kind of spinning off of the mental health topic, what role does mindset and mindfulness play in establishing a routine and like that feeling of motivation? I think everyone can use mindfulness and like mindset techniques. So, what do those techniques look like? Andrew, if you want to jump into this one, we can just kind of riff on it. But I'm curious about what techniques you guys offer your clients in terms of mindset.
Yeah, I'm sure Megan has a lot of more advanced techniques than I might have. I think it always starts with the thing before the things like, do you have a growth mindset? Do you practice some form of self-awareness? Like, are you self-aware? Because without those things, you can't then go on to like the specific self-talk practices to better your self-talk. So like growth mindset, like, do you think you can change and grow and adapt and learn new things essentially? Or I am how I am and that's all I'll ever be? That's more of the fixed mindset. And as a trainer, one of the things I'm trying kind of sneakily behind the scenes to do with all my clients is to always call out any tiny win just to show them like you have a documented history of accomplishing new things, setting new PRs, working out 3 times a week. You used to do 2 times a week, just calling out all those wins, because in my eyes, one of the best ways to kind of adopt that growth mindset of I can change is by seeing kind of the past track record of you accomplishing things, changing, growing over time. So that's where I try to start. And it's something that's really hard to do on your own. That's where a psychologist, a therapist, a counselor, a trainer, someone who can just has a good enough idea of what we're talking about to help you see the wins you're having so that you can get to the next level of where you can start practicing these new skills.
I really like that idea of like the thing before the thing. And I think also what you're saying about helping people build that like track record, it's kind of like the idea of your identity. I used to talk to my clients about this all the time. It's like, start identifying yourself as a fitness person. Start identifying yourself as someone who loves exercise. And maybe that's too far fetched, right now to go from like, you're not exercising, you don't really like exercise, to go to, I'm a person who loves exercise. But thinking about yourself in a new way, finding that new identity of who you are. Because, like I was saying, I have a love for movement. I just think of myself as a person that's always in motion. And that's why it's never a question to me. I don't need to feel motivation. I don't need to feel discipline to just go to the gym and move, because I am a person in motion. That's how I think of myself. And it becomes easy. And I feel like, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of what you're trying to set up for people, is like, let's start pointing out all the ways in which you just effortlessly do this thing that is exercise.
Yeah, that's spot on. And for some people it's not effortlessly. And I think that's worth calling out too. Like, you put a lot of effort into this and you did it. Isn't it cool how you can do tough things even though they are tough?
Oh, that's a good point.
Do you guys think that movement is medicine?
Yes.
And why
And
is that?
studies have shown that. Like, the more and more studies show that if you are moving, your body is healthier. I was at a symposium like probably 4 or 5 months ago, and it was all about how 60 or 90 is the new 60 and how to age like well. And the number one thing, there were multiple doctors on the panel, and the number one thing they said was movement, exercise. Even small bursts of movement make a huge difference. And that means you could have, like us, we've been moving for 15, 20, however many years, right? Like if we were athletes, it's probably longer. But for many clients, they might be finding that at 40, at 50, at 60, and it's still attainable if, like Andrew said, you're trying to create that growth mindset in them and you're showing them those small wins. I think they're more likely to understand like, oh, like this is changing, and showing like, hey, and I love that we track energy, because I think that's such a big thing. Energy is a health indicator. Like if you are bloated or sluggish or tired and you're not getting enough sleep and you're not eating well and you're not moving your body, you're going to have zero energy. But when you're creating these healthy habits, your energy is going to go up and you're going to feel better. If you don't have small children, you may not get sick as much. If you have small children, there's nothing that's going to help that. But I feel like that is a way we can showcase to clients, like, look, your body is getting healthier.
You know what, though? Okay, so this is something I hear a lot of trainers say, which is remember your why, go back to your why. That will be your motivation. Just focus on your why. And I question that sometimes. I'm like, but like people know why they should exercise, and they even sometimes, you know, have a doctor tell them you're, which I personally hate this, you're on the path to an early death, whatever it is, which is terrifying to hear. And people know their why. I want to be around for my grandkids, and people still don't do it. So does that matter? Is focusing on your why actually a motivator? Can we rely on our why to get us doing the thing?
I don't think so. I think it's a great idea to think about the why. And I think there are times to call that goal back in. But I think, like Andrew was talking about, focusing on the small wins, but also small steps that they're doing, because that is more, I think it matters more. And also it's more salient. Like you can actually, if you look and it's like, hey, you weren't working out and now you have a 60-day workout streak. You have not missed a single workout. That's going to be more important to them than their why, right? Because they're actually realizing like, oh, I didn't pay any attention to that. And oh, I have more energy. And I think the biggest thing, going back to like the mental strategies, and I think this can be really good for kind of combating that lack of why, is confidence. And we've talked about self-identity, because I think especially in, you can open up Instagram or social media and see all of these bodies that look maybe the way you want them to look. And that can be great for motivation for a little bit, but it also can drive down motivation. And I think that, really focusing on what you can control and your small wins builds up your own confidence. And I think that's one of the mental strategies I always tie in with my clients, is helping them feel confident by what they have achieved, not looking at how they failed, not looking at what they didn't do, but saying like, look, we started and you were squatting body weight, and now you're using 225-pound dumbbells and like you're crushing it and your form is great and you feel really good. Like those are things that start to make them feel more confident, and like, oh, and then they'll tell you like, hey, I bought a new pair of jeans and it's a size down and I feel really good. And I think, celebrating those things are better than focusing on a big why that may not really have an impact on their day-to-day life.
That's like, is this the difference between intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation? Like having that why come from within you versus with, outside of you. I feel like so often when people don't know what to do or where to go, they have a problem to solve, we tend to want to reach for things outside of ourselves. Like, okay, I want, I'm going to get going because my doctor told me to. I'm going to get going because I saw that magazine photo. Do magazines still exist? I don't know. I saw that picture on Instagram and I want to look like that. That is so fleeting. But the answers are inside of you. Like you will know why. It comes from in you. That's what really keeps you moving forward.
Darian, that's why I put emotional versus superficial in there. Because,
okay,
Andrew, I want to ask you this. The superficial goal is I want to lose 30 pounds. The superficial goal is I want to jump higher. How do we get our clients to understand this emotional goal of like, I want to touch my toes so I can get down and play with my grandkids? Like, how can we have people access that intrinsic motivator?
I don't think that's anything that can be lectured into someone's brain. I think that's something that's best experienced. And it's a little bit like a lot of people do just sign up for some kind of fitness plan for the aesthetic reasons, or like the big picture and the superficial, the extrinsic things. I want to jump higher, like you said, or lose X amount of weight. That is usually what gets people here. And if you ask them in the moment, that's probably their deeper why, that thing. And I agree with everything Megan said. And I look at it in another path as well, where those are kind of long off things. And your workout today will not make you lose 20 pounds as soon as it's done. Your workout today will not have you jumping a foot higher. So at some point, the people who tend to stay around recognize my workout today immediately makes me feel a little bit better. My workout today immediately changes my energy and mood. So it's people who tend to have more motivation is because they're connecting my actions today with how it changes me today, and not that delayed gratification concept of what goal I reach a year from now or 10 years from now. So how do you get people to recognize that? I think it's one of the toughest things. And I think it's all these other things: shrink the habit, shape the path, set the environment up so it's really easy to do the workouts. And then you kind of realize, as the trainer's calling out wins, that, oh, I'm working out not just to lose weight, but I'm working out because I handle my work day better the next day. I'm working out because I notice it's easier getting on the ground playing with my kids. And that actually means more to me now than the 20-pound weight loss goal I originally had.
And I hate to say it, but exercise is never done. Even when you reach that goal, it's a lifelong endeavor. You will work out, hopefully, ideally, until the day you die. I don't personally ever plan to stop working out ever. I hope to be doing a max set of pull-ups when I'm 98 years old. I'll do as many as my age. So at 98, I'll be doing 98 pull-ups. But that's the other thing. You have to find that intrinsic motivation, because the work is never done. You will do this for the rest of your life. I think that's really scary for some people, but that's the truth. And it can be really exciting to go, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to move this body for the rest of my life. It gets me hyped up personally. So I know we're going to try to wrap up soon. So I want to try to get to some client questions, or just thing. I know we've talked a lot about things we hear from our clients, but specifically, I think a lot of our clients say we hear the same things over and over. One of the things that really popped out to me is people thinking that motivation is going to feel a specific way. Like they're waiting to feel motivated again. What is that feeling? Does that feeling even exist? I mean, like I personally don't think I ever feel motivated, but I always go to the gym and do active things. So should we wait around to feel motivated? And what are we even waiting for?
I think that's that trap of feeling like you have to be motivated to do something. And I think you can't wait around for that motivation. You have to make the choice. And that's something I like to call out with my clients is you made the choice to move today. You didn't have to, and you did. And I think coming back to that and reminding people like this is a choice that has to be made, even for trainers who this is our job. We still have to make the choice to exercise or not, like you did, Darian, when you were like, I don't feel like today is not the day. You made the choice not to exercise. And I think focusing on it as a choice, not, oh, when I'm motivated, I'm going to do it. Well, then you're choosing not to do it. And I think there is power in recognizing like, I might not be motivated, but I am choosing to make the change in my life that needs to be done. And I'm going to continue to make that choice every single day.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me on this list, Darian, is when life happens and the motivation is lost. Like, it's going to happen. And it's all how you respond to that what if. That's what Coach Miver always says. But, Andrew, if life happens and motivation is lost, what's our path to keep going forward?
Yeah, I think that's where you've hopefully set up a good system. Is there someone in your life you can lean on for support? That's the community aspect that Megan talks about. Is it already something where you've set up your future success for easy success because you locked yourself into X amount of workouts on these days already? So you have to show up, or you already signed up for that 3-month-long gym membership. So you got to use it because you know you're wasting money. I think it's really hard. You shrink down the habit. You don't act like I was doing an hour-long workout, so I have to immediately start back with that. That's probably not true. Let's start with 5 minutes walk at home and then a 10-minute walk at the gym and then so on and so forth. So make it easy for yourself to get back in it and rely on that support system, whether that's the environment or your people, to make it easy for yourself.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think the last question I think we could do today, I've literally just heard this from one of my clients, is I'm not progressing. I'm not progressing, or I'm not progressing fast enough. I'm not seeing or feeling the changes I wanted to feel. And then they start to feel like it's not worth it. Can we quickly just talk about progress and what's actually realistic with progress? Because part of what I told my client was working out is actually never going to feel easy because you're making progress. Oh, you up the weights. Well, now it's going to feel hard. And when that doesn't feel hard, that's how we know to make it hard again, to keep progressing. But also, progress can look 1,000 different ways. It's not always and not typically going to be a big physical change in your body. It's going to be the little things. You lifted 2.5 more pounds today, especially over time. Like in the beginning, we get those fast progress, those fast gains, and then it really tapers off. Like for me to see progress, I mean, I would be happy with an extra pound at this point on some of my lifts. But what does progress look like? What's realistic? And like, can we really base our motivation and desire to keep going on the progress we're seeing?
I love that. I feel like people don't always recognize like adding weight in the gym is progress. And I think also I like to talk to clients about, okay, well, are you seeing progress in your life? And they're like, oh yeah, actually I don't have as much back pain, and like I can pick up my kid and I feel strong and my arms don't get as tired. And it's like, if you can have a conversation with them where they're recognizing like other areas, like I have more energy throughout the day. All of that is progress from working out. It may not be, weight loss takes a lot of time. That's a conversation I have with every client who comes in with a weight loss goal, especially a bigger one. We have that conversation up front where I'm like, this is going to take a year. This is a commitment. This is not a quick and easy thing, because that loss isn't going to stay around. You're not going to create these habits. We need to be committed to, the long term here. And then through that, recognize, I think this is where a trainer or that community comes in to showcase, like, someone you haven't seen in a while saying, you look skinny, or like, you look good. Like, wow, that is a sign of progress that you're not seeing. And someone, your partner who sees you every day, may not be recognizing. But I think something I always try to do is point out progress indicators that they're not paying attention to, or that they may not see, but we can see.
Yeah, it's not always going to be physical, Megan. I love how you said that. It could be mental, it could be spiritual. Who knows? Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I love all those examples Megan called out. And I think it highlights the importance of having an experienced guide, a trainer, someone who's been on this path before, who can help you recognize those things that are changing and that those other forms of progress. Because if you are new at this, or it's been 10, 15 years since you've exercised or try to hit some kind of physical goal, you might not know, you probably won't know what forms of progress actually look like. So having someone to call that out, I think, is invaluable. You need that just to, in a way, keep yourself motivated. The whole theme of this is having someone call out those wins that are happening that you don't recognize. And to Darian's point, I love kind of the concept of workouts get harder as you get fitter. And I always tell clients, yeah, you're leveling up. You start out at level 1 doing level 1 challenges, and now you're at level 5 doing level 5 challenges. But if we went back into the level 1 boss when you're level 5, that'd be a piece of cake. So I think just having those trainers who can help you recognize those things makes this journey so much easier to see it's worth it and to stay on the path you want to be on.
Something I used to do to kind of highlight this is the first week of the new year, I would copy my clients' first week of workouts if they'd been with me for longer than a couple of months, because I wanted them to really feel the difference. And I did this for every single client I had. And it was always amazing to hear what they would say about going through those workouts and how easy they felt and how they were really feeling that difference, because you keep leveling up in your workouts, but you're not thinking about it if you're not the one writing your workouts.
Yeah, it's such a great point that, you're not always going to notice the small changes over time, but finding ways to highlight those for yourself. I even think like doing things like benchmark workouts, like a move that you really care about, an exercise you really care about, or whatever it may be, like Joey mentioned, to jump. Just if you're unsure of your progress, test yourself on these certain progress markers that you want to keep track of, whether it's a movement or checking in on your energy levels like we talked about, or checking in on your I personally don't love looking at the scale. That's going to be a topic for a whole nother episode. But things you can look at that will highlight meaningful progress to you, I think is going to be really important to keep moving yourself forward with your fitness routine. So with that, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you all, Megan, Andrew, so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure talking to you and learning from both of you. You're both so insightful and knowledgeable on this topic. I can see a lot of future episodes with both of you coming on again. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap. That's our episode on motivation. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope that you learned something, but most importantly, we hope that you had fun. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.